everybody. Actually, the word meditation is not an action. It is a state that you reach. And what all people say, I'm doing meditation and all, they're preparing for it. It's a preparation. And the example he gives is of sleep. That, hey, when you sleep, how do you fall into sleep? You prepare for it. When the sleep comes, you don't know. If you have done a good preparation, and if you have dropped everything, preparation means even mind mein hona chahiye. You have to drop all your attachments to the world. At that time, you cannot be thinking of money, your business, your this, otherwise sleep aayegi nahi. So you drop everything, sleep will automatically come. That way, if you have prepared everything perfectly, you will merge with that consciousness at that time. So that's what it is. So this is the technique he's saying that he's introducing, that how you travel from your senses to the mind, to the intellect, to that consciousness. That's what he's saying. Premji, padhi aage.
Okay. Compared with the objects of the world, we can easily understand the sense organs are more sacred and divine. Of the instruments that constitute our physical structure, certainly the sense organs are subtler than the organs of action. Every one of us can easily experience that our mind controls and orders our sense organs, and therefore we know that the mind is subtler than the indriyas.
So we already went through it. I told in detail about subtlety and all that. That's what he's talking about, huh?
No doubt the mind has a vast kingdom to roam about in, and even so, it has its own limitation and fixed frontiers. From the knowledge to knowledge, we extend the frontiers of our mind, and all along this aggressive march of new conquests, it is the intellect that first crosses the existing frontiers of the mind and wins for it the neighboring kingdoms of fresh knowledge. In this sense, the intellect has a great pervasiveness than the mind, and therefore it is conceived of as being subtler than the mind. That which lies beyond the intellect is called the Supreme, the Atman.
Swamiji uses, I think that Krishna Bhagwan already uses very nice, beautiful, flowery language, and Swamiji adds so much more. All this poetic language that he uses, it's amazing that how it goes through this aggressive march of new conquest. It means new, basically saying that we acquire more and more new knowledge and we expand our intellect more and more beyond. And then it's also talked about Atman, that beyond that. I mean, now he's going to explain more about Atman. Huh? So go ahead.
The consciousness in man, which lights up the very intellectual ideas in him, must necessarily be subtler than the intellect itself. In the Upanishads, it has been finally declared that there is nothing subtler than the self, the Atma. The technique of meditation lies in the conscious withdrawal of all our identification with our body, mind, and intellect. All efforts end when we have thus gathered our entire awareness from the delusory preoccupation and made it live in itself, as objectless awareness.
So here these are big words he's using, but I think our Gaurang Bhai used to explain this objectless awareness very nicely. So what is objectless awareness? When you are not attached to any of the things, but you're just aware of it. That's one way of looking at it. And the other one is, Gaurang Bhai used to explain that, awareness is something like, giving, what should I say, is giving power to the whole world to function. Okay, so one of the example is the sun. Sun for us on this earth, living on this earth, we get every kind of power to do anything is because of the sun. Because if we don't have a sunlight, we can't even move. Because if you go into the deep cave where there is absolutely no light, we will not even know. We lose the sense of direction also. We just become totally like nishkriya, like we cannot do anything. So the same way, objectless awareness is like sun is there, but suppose there is no earth, it will still keep on shining. That awareness, sun is not going to go away, even if something is there to illumine or not. And the same way, like in a room, a light. I turn the light on and there are 15 different items in my room. It lights up everything I can see. Suppose if all those things are gone, will the light still be there? Yes. What will be light illumining? It will be illumining itself, kind of, almost. It's there without the objects. So it's saying that when you withdraw from, senses, mind, and intellect, then objectless awareness remains. That's all he's saying. It becomes like a witness to everything. It's maybe a little bit difficult concept, but at least if we understand the example a little bit, we can kind of contemplate upon it.
Isn't it true then the consciousness witnessing the consciousness itself, and therefore that's the thing that we want? Because then you're witnessing because there's blankness. The consciousness or the witness is witnessing. There's nothing to witness. It's witnessing consciousness itself.
Yeah,
so
and
the consciousness
true. Yeah.
witnessing consciousness itself, you are there then.
Yes, you can look at it that way. Yes. Yeah, there are several different ways you can look at it. One of this is that firstly to realize that I am that consciousness. And like one of the programs that I'm going to post it over here. I saw one really great documentary about consciousness and the modern science. Now, if you guys like that kind of subject, you will love this, because they have taken all the best of professors and people, from Harvard and, what are those universities? England, those couple of universities. I think that you guys know. It's not coming to me now. Huh? Oxford and all. There were professors from there, and they are doing these studies now that how our science has become totally only material. Okay, but there's such a strong evidence exists for consciousness, but they don't want to, they're too kind of stubborn. But now they cannot be stubborn because the evidence is too overwhelming. So first you have to realize that you are that consciousness, and then in that somebody made a statement, we are universe looking upon ourselves. That's what who we are. I thought that was such a profound statement that, we are just looking at ourselves only. All these things that we are seeing, consciousness is one. And the people who cross that border temporarily, like the NDE people, they go there and when they come back, they tell you what it is. Because right now we are studying from Bhagavad Gita, and sometimes the Bhagavad Gita language is, like 5,000 years old language and Sanskrit and all that. And then, maybe they're talking about totally modern language, but they're saying exactly the same thing, that there is something beyond his body, mind, and intellect, much more powerful, much more beautiful, much more loving together, everything, the Satchit Anand that they talk about, they describe it 100%. And then they tell you that how the evidence is there in this physical world also, there is evidence about it. And as the science is going deeper and deeper and deeper, they are realizing that the way the universe behaves, physically what you see, it cannot behave that just like that. Even the movement of stars and all that, the antimatter and dark matter, and they keep giving name, some god material, पता नहीं क्या क्या नए नाम देते जा रहे हैं. All they are saying is there are things that we cannot grasp from our senses, but it exists. So when we talk about this objectless awareness, it's more like realizing that I am that consciousness, and from that perspective looking at everything. Because
there are one or two lectures of Swami Sarvpriyanandaji which takes up the scientist and his own, the consciousness, and they describe beautifully. There are 2-3 lectures.
Yeah, you can share that too, because I absolutely love Sarvpriyanandaji, the way he approaches it, because he also does both. He studies deeply the Western philosophers, and he knows amazing everything about the Eastern, and then he puts them together.
Yes, he's done that in 1 or 2. Okay, I'll pass it on.
You can pass it on. Okay, so
Uma, you will be giving us a link to that documentary you
yes,
referred to?
I'm going to send. I sent it to both the brothers already, but I will put it on this Gita class because it's very.
I'm not getting it right now. I'm seeing it.
You're seeing it? Yeah. How do you like it?
Yeah, it's just pretty good.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
It's just got very deep things behind it.
Yes.
It's hard to appreciate it.
Yes.
It makes sense and all.
Yeah, you have to literally watch it a couple of times, and you have to watch it. Don't watch it very casually. You got to give it full attention, because they talk very hi-fi stuff, but all of them are like extremely qualified to talk about, and they tell you that look, in the mainstream science, people might ridicule us also, that hey, this is but now more and more the people are coming around. That's what they're saying. And I say, hey, they don't talk about so much about our Shastras, but in the whole series, one or two of them did mention it. The word Sankalpa they mentioned and all that. So I said, and once you kind of hear them, you realize they have studied the Eastern philosophy also. You can't get away from it, because the wisdom is there, Yeah. Okay, did we finish this?
Yes.
The last sentence we read, the goal gained by pursuing this art of meditation is explained in the following. Okay. So now, let's see. It's 12 o'clock. So this was very heavy, so maybe I'll stop here. Everybody contemplate upon this. We'll finish it.
Umaji, I have a request. Before we move forward to the Upanishad, can you quickly just explain to me the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Just one more time, please.
Sure. So Neeluji,
Sorry about that.
no, it's not at all. These things, if you repeat it, it's good. So knowledge is something that we acquire, from outside. So for example, it can be secular knowledge also, anything, engineering, finance, whatever, everything that we acquire that comes under knowledge is gyan. And the other word is vigyan. Vigyan means when you make it your own by your own experience. Okay, like for example, just a gross example I'm giving, stock market. Okay, it's
So Vigyan would be wisdom.
yes, exactly. Wisdom is like, when it is more deep into you. And once you have that wisdom, when you speak from wisdom, it's your own experience also you're talking about, because you have done.
Can I say it is experience knowledge?
Yeah, knowledge that is turned into experience. And
It's kind of practical application of knowledge. It's practical application of knowledge is wisdom. Practical application of knowledge is wisdom. When you start applying that knowledge, when you understand that knowledge thoroughly, and you can apply that in your day-to-day life, then it becomes a wisdom.
So another example, simple one I can give you, Neeluji. Suppose if I want to learn how to swim, okay? So I go and I read about it. And I read thoroughly everything. Okay, but I have not jumped in the water myself. So वो अभी knowledge level पे ही है. फिर मैं पानी में कूद के वो सब कुछ करती हूँ और फिर मैं swim करना सीख लेती हूँ, तो wisdom बन जाता है. Then I can go become a swim teacher. I can teach other people. And then I will know कि वो पानी के अंदर घुसने से क्या क्या होता है. If I jump from 10 feet, how much it will hurt. Now I've experienced it. So wisdom हो गया मेरा.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other thing? Okay. So Kathopanishad, we finished 10, right? We are at 11. I'm going to just do the Sahana Vavatu. That's part of this Upanishad actually. Now you know where that mantra has come. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, so we are at 11. In verse 10, Nachiketa encashes his first boon. To just summarize quickly, Nachiketa has reached the house of death, and because he was there 3 nights without eating anything, Yamraj told him, he gives him 3 bones. So now he encashes the first one, and he says he's very concerned about his father. So he said that my father, please make sure that my father is not stressed. His mind is shant. And when you send me back, that he should look at me as the same loving son. You know, how sweet his thinking is. And how smart he is. कि वो डेथ के पास जाके वापस आ रहा है. When you send me, ये भी नहीं बोलता मैं खुद वापस जाऊंगा. No, जब आप मुझे भेजेंगे. I mean, smartness की भी हद होती है. It's like amazing, you know. And he should recognize and greet me, and all that. We saw all that. So now let's go to the next one. Whoever has a book, you can follow. Yatha purastat bhavati pratita Odalakihi aruni matam prasushtaha sukham ratrihi shayita vitamanyuh tvam dadrushivan mrityu mukhat pramuktam. Basically, Yamraj is going to say tathastu bolte ne, aisa hi hoga. But he's elaborating, you know. So yatha means as, purastat before, bhavita will be, pratit, aisa pratit hota, will recognize. Audalak is the name. It is a name of his father actually. Aruni also same, son of Aruna. Mata from me, prasushtaha release, sukham peacefully, ratri night, Shayita will sleep, Vitamanyu free from anger. Tvam you, Drud Shivan when he sees, Mrityu Mukhat from the jaws of death, Pramuktam released. So over here, जो उसने मांगा वो सब कुछ दे दिया उन्होंने, क्योंकि simple चीज मांगी थी. But for Yamaraj, it's no big deal to give all those things. And here there are different names of his father, Odalik, Aruni, and Swamiji is going to tell you that these are all different names of the same person. Okay, and then he says, when he sees you, he's not going to have any anger towards you, so he will receive you. When I release you from this, jaws of death. So basically, he already gave him the return ticket back. जो उसने बोला था उसको मिल गया कि जब तू जाएगा वापस तो तेरे को वो. And also said, तेरा father चैन की नींद सोएगा. तो उसमें भी psychologically involved है. Already stress नहीं होएगा इसका मतलब. चैन की नींद वही सो सकता है जिसको कोई stress नहीं हो. So one step further only he went कि वो चैन की नींद सोएगा. While you are here, he will be no problem at all. And so he kind of gave him everything that he wanted. It's a very simple one, this one. There's nothing much in it, but just whatever he gave it to him. Any question on this? Yeah. Sheila ji, आप पढ़ना चाहते हो या question है? You have to unmute yourself, Sheila ji. Did you have a question?
I want to know which verse we are on.
Oh, we are on verse 11 of Kathopanishad. You have this book, right? Of Kathopanishad?
Yeah, I have the same.
Valli 1. It's page. Mera page different hai because I have an old book. Anybody wants to tell Sheila ji the page?
Page 26.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine now.
You got it?
Thank you very much.
Acha. So, who wants to read this verse 11 commentary of Swamiji? Okay, here Gita ji has not read for a while. Gita ji can read, and then Sheila ji can read after that.
Through my favor, Odalaki?
Yeah, Odalaki, yes. Odalaki.
Aruni, thy father, will recognize and will be possessed of affection as before. When he sees you released from the mouth of death, will lose his anger and will sleep peacefully at night. In this stanza, Lord Death is blessing the boy with the fulfillment of all demands in all their details. Nachiketa's father has 4 names, as is evident from the page of this Upanishad, namely Gautam, Audalaki, Aruni, and Vajashrvas. He was the son of Udalak and an adopted child of Aruna.
So these are all the names, it's okay if we don't know. If whoever is interested in the stories might be interested, but अपने लिए ठीक है. और उसका different names थे, बस ये बता दिया. हाँ. Oh, you have, that's it? I guess मेरे में थोड़ा सा दिया, but nothing too much. He was the son of Uddalaka and all that you already said. Or some other commentators identify Rajashava, father of Nachiketa, as the famous Uddalak Aruni. Therefore, nothing much. Let's see. We can skip that. Yeah. Just telling you more about the names. So this is very simple, right? Whatever he demanded, he gave it to him. So now let's see what. And the next one is a little bit significant now. So now, second gift. But before asking the second gift or boon, he's creating a भूमिका बांधना बोलते हैं जिसको. थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में चर्चा कर रहा है वो. He's telling you certain concepts that are there in the world, and that he has heard, and he's discussing with Yamraj before asking कि मैंने ऐसा सुना है. Okay, just keep that in mind. Let's see what he's saying. So here is a verse 12 in the book. Swarge loke na bhayam kinchanasti न तत्र त्वं न जरया विभेति उबे तीर्थवा अशना या पिपासे शोकातिग मोदते स्वर्गलोके. Let's look at the word. Swargaloke, in heavens. Na bhayam, no fear. Kinchan, whatsoever. Asti, there is. Na tatra, there. Tvam, you are. Na is nor. Jarya means old age. Jara jisko bolte hain. Vibheti, they fear. Ubhe is both. Tirtva, having crossed. Ashanaya, hunger. Pipase, thirst. Shokatigaha, about grief. Modate, rejoices. Swargaloke, in the heavens. So basically what he's telling you over here is, I have heard that there is another loka called Swargalok. And there, people live very long. He actually said they get immortality over here, but that's not true. Relatively longer. And there are many people who love to go over there because over there bhook pyas nahi lagti hai wahan pe. Because you don't have this physical body as such. You are in more like some spiritual body, spirit, like spirit mein. भूख प्यास नहीं लगती है. कोई वहां वृद्ध नहीं होता है. कभी स्वर्ग में देखा किसी को वृद्ध ऐसे ऐसे लकड़ी लेके चलते हुए? No. And that's what we are afraid of. And death, old age and death that we are afraid of, वहां नहीं होता. But Swamiji explains that he's just talking in relative terms. So don't jump to conclusion कि वहां जाने से that's the moksha. No. In fact, I want to bring that subject up, that in Vedas also, there is a huge section on Karma Kand, 80% of it. In fact, somebody had put some percentage that only 4% is Upanishad towards the end. Rest is, how to fulfill this desire, that desire. And here Krishna Bhagavan is saying, get over all your desire, because Krishna Bhagavan is telling you fast track. Okay, Krishna Bhagavan gives everything, but he encourages Arjun to go to the highest. So in fact, he's going to talk about it in those terms. There is one Chandra Marg and one Surya Marg, means one is you keep coming back again and again in this Janma. So what is Swarga according to the Vedanta? It's a vacation place. So after we have earned, जैसे बोलते हैं पुण्य कमा लिया यहाँ पे बहुत सारा, तो एक बैंक बैलेंस बन गया. With that you go to the Swarg. You enjoy, वहाँ भूख प्यास नहीं लगेगी, अप्सराएं नाच रही, जो भी है, everybody has their, like I think it was Sadhguru who was saying that everybody has a great imagination about the Swarg. The Muslims, they say, oh, there are those virgins over there, dancing, and Hindus will think, oh, pakode khane ko milenge, or khana, pina, moj, that's all. That's all. But in the end, you are again dropped back on the earth after your merit is finished. Okay? So that's what he's talking about. So, but why is
Can I ask a silly question?
Yeah, sure.
Because I haven't seen that in the Gita. When we drop back to earth, at which stage do we drop back? Because Arjun asked the question, if I die before I reach the perfection, what happens? And then Krishna Bhagavan says, then you are born in the homes of saintly people so that you can continue on your journey easily.
Right.
What happens after you've exhausted all your karma and you come back to earth?
Are you talking about that? See, when he talks about in chapter 6, when Arjun asks, hey, Arjun's question was, what Gita is asking, Arjun's question was, okay, Krishna Bhagavan, you told me to do all these things and meditate and do karma yoga. I do all that, but I still haven't reached and I kick the bucket. I die. So what happens? Will I just get destroyed just like a rent cloud and the cloud gets broken into pieces and disappear? That's what's going to happen to me? Krishna Bhagavan says, no. Every effort that you have done on this earth spiritually is not going to go waste. And it is in line with Kathopanishad. Do you remember that in the beginning verses of Kathopanishad, it said Dharma is the only one that goes with you? All your material things are going to remain here. Only whatever spiritually you have gained is going to go in this next life, right? So what you are saying is, okay, what is your journey then? So then Krishna Bhagavan says, you will be born either in a place, in a house where the money is not going to be any problem. Okay? So you're not going to be, oh, kal ko meko khana kahan se milega? That's not going to be a problem. And you will be able to focus on your spiritual. That's one way of, one kind of circumstances you will be born in. Second circumstances will be, you will be born in a yogi family. Very sattvic, and you can immediately start your journey from very childhood. And when you see all these Mahatmas, a lot of them, very early age they started because, their parents were inviting other sadhu, whatever. So that's what it was saying, Gita ji. And Swarga ka mention aayega in Bhagavad Gita also, many different places. As we go through the journey, you will see, because he's going to say there are two ways. One is you go different stops se ja rahe ho tum. Like our teacher used to explain that, you are going to New York and you are stopping at many different places. You are going by some car, vacation karte hue dhire pahunch rahe ho. One is you take a jet and go straight up. Krishna Bhagavan always encourages Arjun to go take the jet. As it become yogi, he's telling him, because then you will go faster, because all these yajna and yagas we do why was Vajrashava doing that yajna? He was doing to gain this swarga, right? The beginning of Kathopanishad, everybody remembers, right? He was giving the cows away and all that. That yajna was not for moksha. It was for getting heavens, getting that vacation, or, punya karma ko arjit karke, and I'm going to get a vacation. But according to Vedanta, it's a temporary state. You will, after your punyas are exhausted, you will be again come back to earth to continue your journey. Does that answer that question, Gita ji? I'm not sure if it...
I'm asking, so when we exhaust our karma in heaven and come back to earth, do we have zero?
We are not exhausting our karmas. I think that's where your confusion is. We are just exhausting our merit. Our karmas are very vast. We might have a different because let's look at the vacation. Do people stay in the vacation forever? No. It's a temporary relief that you got. Your karmas are not exhausted. If your karmas get exhausted, then you get moksha. So that's where maybe your confusion is lying. Karmas are different packages are there.
So basically, your life is temporary here, your life is temporary there.
That's
Everything is temporary.
So it means like, okay, one step is you take birth again, right? Depending on your own karmas. If you do little better karmas, then you go to heaven.
But after like you exhaust those punyas, then what happens?
Then you come back.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Then another ladder is that you go to moksha.
मोक्ष इज लाइक छूट गए सब चीज से बिकॉज
बिल्कुल छूट गया.
हाँ तो फिर उसके बाद आपको आएंगे तो अगर आप आएंगे तो अवतार की तरह आएंगे आप.
हाँ ठीक है. अब वो नरक कहाँ पे आता है?
नरक तो अकॉर्डिंग टू स्वामी एंड
what they call as bhog yonya, which means whatever karma you have done, good or bad, unke liye you get to bhogo. If you have done good karma, you go to swarg. If you have done bad karma, you go to
लोअर.
narak. And also they talk about bakri and jo sher. These are all yonya. And in those yonya, any karma you do, तुम्हें उसका पाप या पुण्य नहीं लगेगा. In other words, it's totally neutral. So even if you go in swarg, you can do what you want, but you are not going to get any merits for it.
That's a very good point he's saying too.
Human being is the only yoni, this way you get the merit. I mean, this way you move towards exhausting your karma and desire and get moksha.
Where you can progress.
Now the little confusion is between reincarnation and narak. Who take birth again and who goes to narak?
Okay, narak is not okay. Here we are in the center, not center. I think that's a very good question. So I'll tell you with an analogy. You have 2-story home, right? So you want, and बीच में लैंडिंग है. हम लैंडिंग पे खड़े हैं. अब हम ऊपर जा सकते हैं या नीचे जा सकते हैं. Is that true? So जब हम ये जो अर्थ है ना, it is like a landing. It is a place from where you can go down or you can go up. When you say narak, it could be means several different things. It depends on what you want to, your mind agrees with it. What Swamiji, Chinmayanand ji and maybe even Vivekanand ji will say, you create your own narak and swarga because your mind creates it. If you are in a very upset mood and all that, you're in narak. Or if you are in a very happy mood, you are in swarg. That's one way of looking at it. Second way of looking at it is that different yonis, like what he's saying, bolte na patal lok. There are places where there's heart and there are some organism that live over there. Some people might call that narak because you are devolving, okay? Because you have done such horrible karmas and that you're devolving. So you can look at it that way. But the swarg that he is talking about over here is usually done. उसके लिए लोग ये सब हवन वगैरह करते हैं to पुण्य अर्जित करके मैं वहाँ पर जाऊँगा क्योंकि वहाँ पर ये जो bodily afflictions है वो नहीं है and relatively speaking बहुत लंबी आयु है. जब हम लोग vacation spot पे तो इसीलिए जाते हैं ना कि it's better than this place. That's all he's talking about. So he's asking that मैंने ऐसे सुना है और वो इसलिए पूछ रहा है क्योंकि इस दुनिया में most of the people want that. They are not looking for moksha and all that. अभी पहुंचे नहीं है वहाँ पे. So वो उन लोगों के लिए भी कुछ अर्जित करके जाना चाहता है. He's so compassionate that, he wants to take care of his family. Then he wants to take care of society. फिर वो अपनी बात पूछेगा. Okay? And the little confusion that the little boy had that, hey, I have heard that there is immortality there. So all the Swamis and including Shankaracharya corrects that, look, that's not a real immortality. It's relatively more stable, relatively longer. अगर यहाँ पर हमको 70, 80, 100 का जीवन मिलता है years का, वहाँ पर 1000, 2000, 5000 साल का मिलेगा. Very long. So relatively it is immortal. And then remember, he has not learned the Brahma Vidya yet. After he asks the third boon, then he's going to learn about the true immortality. Okay, right now he's still at a different stage. So that's why he's asking. And he's saying, basically he's asking कि ठीक है, लोग यज्ञ करते हैं, yaga करते हैं to get these merits and all that and to fulfill their desire. They may be making some mistakes in doing it. I know you know the correct method. I want to learn from you. And then I want to go back and tell those people who are seeking that. I want to give them that information. He's being kind to his fellow men who are still not there yet to get the highest, and they are seeking to fulfill their desire. They are seeking to go to Swarga. He's asking Yamraj, please teach me these havans and these all that, so I do it correctly and I go teach them. That's what it is. Can I make it a little bit clear with all this discussion? So that's what this particular one is, that he's just saying a background before asking his boon that I have heard. And then I think that I want to bring this one thing which Tejomayananji in his lecture said. He's saying that we on this earth are kind of afflicted by 6 different things according to him. One is at a body level. Body level, we face old age and death. So that's something that none of us, want that, but it happens. So, we are helpless. And then at a prana level, the panch pran that we talk about? Prana level, it's thirst and hunger. So the word overused is pipasa and ashna over here in this verse. We face that, right? As long as we are in the body, we need to eat and we feel thirsty. But according to him, Swarg mein ye sab nahi hota. I think मैंने सुना है कि Swarg mein, if somebody thinks of pakoda, he gets satisfied with pakoda. You don't need to actually go and make it. And यहाँ पर कितनी मेहनत करते हैं सबको, लेडीज को पूछो कितना सब करना पड़ता है, कुछ बनाने के लिए. वहाँ ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, ऐसा सोचा और हो गया बस. Mind level pe we are afflicted by shok and moha. We get grief and we get delusion. And what the way Tejomayananji was explaining that even bhook se bhi delusion ho jata hai. They are all kind of related to each other, this affliction, and moha se shok ho jata hai, So they are all kind of related, but we suffer in that. And he's saying that, hey, Swarg lok mein sab nahi hota. That's why I want to learn, because I want to go tell everybody about it. That's what it is. Any question? Okay. Who wanted to read this 12th one? Who has the book? Sushil ji?
I can read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In heaven, there's no fear whatsoever. You are not there, or death, nor do they, the inhabitants of heaven, that is, Devas, fear or day there, having crossed both hunger and thirst. One rejoices in heaven, being beyond grief.
And one more thing I forgot to tell. He's so smart. He's telling the Yamraj that in Swargalok you are not there. That's why they have no fear. Tum wahan nahi ho. Matlab, he had so much courage to tell him that. But then Tejomayananji said, or I think Swamiji said in his commentary, he's going to say that actually we are not immortal over there. Okay, relatively immortal. Because wahan se bhi bhagna padega humko.
In order to ask the second boon promised here, Nachiketa is glorifying the life in the higher plane of consciousness called the heavens. In establishing the greatness of heaven, Nachiketa adopts the method of comparing it with the sorrows of the world. Heaven is comparatively without fears, since life in that plane of consciousness existence is longer compared to the fleeting span of existence in this mortal plane. Hence, Nachiketa declares to Lord Death, you are not there. This is not an absolute truth. Even for those who live in the heavens, there's mortality. Their career there ends when they exhaust the merits they had gained while they were living in the mortal plane. Man has 5 stages to live through in life: birth, childhood, youth, old age, and death. But the gods have only the first 3 stages, and hence Nachiketa says, "Not do they fear old age there. Not only have they none of the pains of old age or death, but also they have neither the agonies of hunger and thirst which the ordinary mortals suffer through their span of existence here." It is interesting to note here that in the earlier period, death was not considered so ferocious and threatening, a lord of bereavement, as in the later period. In earlier portions of the Vedas, Lord Death is considered as a guide who takes men to the door of heaven. By the time of Kathopanishad, this bright and joyous faith has passed away.
See, because they are saying that how Yamraj, हम लोग जब भी यमराज का पिक्चर बनाते हैं तो एकदम भयानक सा, कोई डरावना सा, और whip लेके he's coming to beat us up or something. So negative it is, But he's just saying that actually, and इसको धर्मराज कहा गया है. And that's why the Yudhishthir is supposed to be son of Dharmaraj, because, and he's the one who takes you to heaven also. So why are you thinking that he's such a bad guy? So it's like just way of perceiving how we perceive Yamraj. So here in this, he's giving him the self-knowledge. He's become the guru of Nachiketa over here. So there's nothing like scary about him over here in this Upanishad, So I think that it's already kind of 12:25, so we can stop over here. Any question on this? Or anybody wants to add anything?
Yeah, it's notable that, at the bottom of the page, Swamiji gives us a reference that this is similar to Gita 9:21.
Yeah, we can go back and see it.
Yeah, I just...
Yeah, interesting, yeah. I'm sure that there is... and this concept of going directly versus... usko bolte hain krama mukti. That's how, I remember Darshana Ben used to explain to us. Krama mukti is, going slowly and then going towards it. She said ki going to higher and higher lokas, but she said end में फिर वो ब्रह्म लोक में जाके ब्रह्मा जी को ज्ञान देना पड़ेगा, भगवत गीता वाला ही ज्ञान. So she's saying ये अर्थ पे ही ले लो ये वाला और सीधा पहुंच जाओ. You don't need to. And then somebody might say, oh, what if that means I'm not going to have all this fun? So then Krishna Bhagavan is going to tell Arjun, no, the person who gets there gets million times more fun than the other people. They are not missing out on anything, because all the joys, small joys that you get on the earth, that one is going to be the highest. So you are not going to miss out on anything by, going fast. That's all. Because we have this wrong idea about it, That's all. Okay, so I'm going to stop this. Let's do the closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.